And let's bring in House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Good morning, Leader Scalise. You heard Leader Jeffries there. The Democrats sound dug in. Do you think President Trump can make a big difference?
He can, Martha, and thanks for having me. You know, President Trump's been trying to get a deal. You know, we passed a bill through the House to keep the government from shutting down. Hakeem actually whipped his members to shut the government down. He voted that way. But luckily, we were able to get the bill passed. So right now it's over in the Senate, and it's on Chuck Schumer and Democrats in the Senate to keep the government from shutting down. And I hope they'll come to their senses and do that early next week.
But you need those Democratic votes for sure. So how do you bring them towards your side or compromise?
Well, nobody needs to move to any side. Just keep in mind, Martha, if you go back to March, this is the same set of funding levels that Democrats voted for in March that is contained in this CR. So there is no new changes to what we're trying to do to keep negotiations going. We still need to have negotiations. There is a conference committee on many of the appropriations bills right now. Tom Cole and his appropriators have gotten agreements on most parts of government funding, and it's been the Democrat leadership that's held them off. Ultimately, let's let those talks continue till November with this short-term government funding bill that's in the Senate, but it's the same levels of funding that the Senate voted for, Democrats included, back in March.
And the administration has threatened these mass firings of federal employees. What would that look like? And is that something you support?
Well, I haven't seen the full details, but if you go back to COVID, Martha, President Biden dramatically expanded, mushroomed the size of the federal government, supposedly to deal with COVID. Well, COVID is over, and yet many of those federal agencies are still 20 or 30% larger than they were before COVID. And so there's been a need for a right sizing of the federal government for a long time. President Trump's talked about that with DOGE and other things he's doing to try to save waste, fraud, and abuse in government. And I think everybody knows there are billions and tens of billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse that still needs to be rooted out. We got to some of that, but there's more that needs to be done.
Is that the way to do it? Whether you pare down the federal government or not, is that the way to do it? A government shutdown, you just start mass firings?
Well, obviously, there's lots of ways to do it. It'd be nice if there was a bipartisan agreement to cut out waste, fraud, and abuse in government, but every Democrat voted no, voted against things like taxpayer funding for illegals to get government benefits. Every Democrat voted against rooting that out. Giving checks, government checks to dead people. It had been going on for a long time. We finally put verifications in place. Every Democrat voted against that. So far, they've shown they don't want to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. President Trump ran on doing it. He was elected with a mandate by the American people to finally bring fiscal sanity so we can reduce deficits, get spending under control, get the economy back on track. And that's what we've been laser focused on.
You heard Leader Jeffries say he was hopeful there would not be a government shutdown. Would you say you're hopeful? And if so, why?
I'm not only hopeful. Speaker Johnson, all my Republican colleagues voted to prevent a government shutdown, and we passed that bill to the Senate. That bill's still sitting over in the Senate. You saw a vote a few days ago where almost every Republican and only one Democrat voted for it. There's still time for an agreement to be reached. I'm glad that President Trump is showing leadership in meeting with all leaders, Republican and Democrat, Monday in the White House. But ultimately, those Democrats have to make a decision. Do they want to shut down the government to appease their radical base, who's been just looking for a fight for Donald Trump for no reason other than they're not happy with the results of the election last year? Or are they going to work with the president to keep negotiations going? This is a short-term funding bill that goes till November 21st, allows for government, troops to be paid, all of the other things that Hakeem and everybody says they don't want, yet they voted to shut the government down. Let's have the Senate go do the right thing and pass that bill that's sitting over there waiting.
And quickly, if you could, Leader Scalise, I want to talk about the Comey indictment. Let me read you what your fellow Republican caucus member, Representative Don Bacon, wrote in response to the indictment. Lawfare undermines our great country. It didn't start in January, but it didn't end either. The continued escalation will only hurt us all. Your response to that?
Well, we saw an unbelievable abuse of power from federal agencies for years and years. And frankly, James Comey is one of the main culprits in undermining the public's trust in agencies like the FBI. He abused his power, Martha, and now ultimately he has been indicted for lying to Congress. This isn't about what he did to the president. It's about lying to Congress and obstructing justice. And that's what he was indicted for. He's going to ultimately go before a jury of his peers. So he gets to make his case. But they're serious charges. And it's not the only thing that he's done that he's been accused of in the past. I mean, he was behind the Russian hoax that undermined public confidence in these agencies. He's accused of being a dirty cop. And that's it's not a good place for somebody to be. And he's disgraced the agency.
We will see what happens in court. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Leader Scalise.